You're taking a live look right now. Our photojournalist Calista Silva getting a little closer to this fire.
The dead well, as you can see behind me, has still been an attraction for people to come and take pictures.
I'm standing at the edge of runway 20 here at Watsonville Municipal Airport. I'm going to step out of the way and you can see the single engine Cessna on the ground right there. So I'm sitting behind a hump right now. Let's go ahead and show. I'm sitting on a camel. There are camel rides out here at the Santa Cruz County Fair. I'm going to attempt to do weather on a camel. Our chief photographer, Calista Silva, also on a camel.
Now, since the well has been on shore these past couple of days, California State Parks Division officers put up these signs advising beachgoers of possible increased shark activity in the water near the whale.
MPUSD says they have been communicating with parents to let them know about these new start time changes.
This has been an emotional day, one that we keep saying and hearing again and again.
Emery was found along this dirt road behind the Marina Airport. When the car stopped, she ran up to the car and began tapping on the windows. Saldivar then jumped out as Emery hopped into the driver's seat. Saldivar then turned on the heater to help keep Emery warm.
And I'm actually joined live now with current Marina Police Chief and Monterey County Sheriff Tiana Nieto. Parents were feeling anxious and nervous. They were texting the students who were here behind me, making sure that they were safe.
And there's all kinds of cool cars out here, even fully equipped with side view mirrors like I'm looking at you right now.
You can see those crooked lanes behind me here on Ladd Lane. Some drivers are following it.
We're going to go ahead and walk around, and here we go. Here we go. Calista's camel goes first, followed by my camel. This might be a first on live television, Veronica. Weather on a camel.
I thought, we were going to die, and I was texting my parents thinking, like, do I need to say my last I love yous? All of a sudden, the pilot just said, hold on, and the engine died, and everything inside the plane just shut off. We were like, are we going to be okay? And he was like, I don't know yet. Let me, figure this out. So he tries to restart the plane, and it's not working. The propellers are starting to go, and they stop again. He contacts the Watsonville Airport, and he's on the headphones with them, and they're trying to get him to land at the Watsonville Airport, but we weren't at a high enough elevation to make it that far. So from there, we were like, okay, we're either going to have to do a freeway landing or a beach landing. The Watsonville Airport directed us how to get to the beach. And I just started thinking, were we going to nosedive down, or were we going to land in trees? And I was thinking, just how is it possible that he's going to be able to land this plane safely? We went through clouds, and it was so hazy in the clouds, you couldn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, we pop out, and we're 500 feet above just open ocean. Thankfully, the pilot just yanked the steering over and directed us over to the beach, and then that's where we landed. I just felt the biggest sense of relief, and I was shaking so bad. My hands were just completely shaking, and when we landed, me, my boyfriend, and the pilot, we all just hugged each other, and we were just really grateful that everything worked out okay and everyone was safe.
He used to carry Narcan in his pockets so that if somebody found him, they would administer it. He would do it knowing he would die. That's how strong that addiction is. When my son first started doing drugs, the first time he overdosed, he didn't realize what he was getting. It was a Percocet laced with fentanyl. I looked at his journal later after he passed. It said that was the night he realized that was the drug of his choice. He went from experimenting to addicted. I walked in the room one night and found him smoking fentanyl. He jumped up and was, Mom, I'm sorry, I'm so embarrassed. I'm just humiliated. I'm addicted to fentanyl, and I can't get up without doing any because I get sick. I got him immediately on a plane within 24 hours to Mississippi to a rehab there. He was sober and was working the recovery program for 5 months. He was doing so great. I had my son back. The light in his eyes was back after he was back almost 6 months. He spoke to a friend. I have the text which says, I can get you some. It's pretty strong. It keeps me from getting sick, so it'll be hella strong for you. I just don't want you to OD or anything. LOL. LOL. that night my son overdosed. That night, they used his Narcan. It saved a bottom some time as far as breathing. The brain damage was already so severe, I sat next to him for 16 days at his hospital bed, holding his hand, sectioning his mouth, wiping the drool from his mouth, massaging his legs, reading him stories, playing him music. And then on May 7th, he was gone. I would do anything to make sure another parent never felt this loss. And I want people to realize it can be your child. I never thought it would be, and it is so addictive. Look for signs, educate yourself.
Tonight, the investigation continuing into that mid-air crash killing 3 people and a dog at the Watsonville Municipal Airport on Thursday. Today, investigators with the NTSB and FAA could be seen searching for evidence.
After we gather our data in about 14 days, we will publish a preliminary report, and depending on the complexities of the investigation, a final report with a probable cause will be issued in about 12 to 24 months.
Watsonville area traffic, Twin Cessna 740, Wichita Juliet, 3 miles, straight in, 20, full stop.
We are now getting a better idea on the moments leading up to the crash. The following is the air traffic communication between the 2 aircrafts just before the collision. The pilot of the twin-engine Cessna with 2 people on board announcing 1 mile out on approach to runway 20.
Watsonville area traffic, Twin Cessna 740, Wichita Juliet, 1 mile. Straight in, 20, full stop. Looking for traffic on left base.
At that moment, the pilot of the single-engine Cessna, the only person on board, acknowledging traffic in sight.
Yeah, I see you. You're behind me.
A few minutes later, the pilot of that single-engine Cessna makes the decision to abort the landing.
I'm gonna go around then, because you're coming at me pretty quick, man.
That was the last transmission from both aircrafts. A few seconds later,
everybody, please be advised there is an accident towards runway 20. Please be advised, Watsonville.
The 2 Cessnas colliding, the single-engine Cessna crashing just before runway 20. The twin-engine Cessna with 2 people on board crashing into a hangar on the other side of the airport. Watsonville Muni is an uncontrolled airport, meaning that it does not have a tower. Today, we asked NTSB officials about that.
I would say that the Common Traffic Advisory Frequency is the tool that is there for the pilots to use when operating in uncontrolled airports that do not have a control tower.
Bringing an air traffic control tower to a municipal airport or any airport requires approval of the FAA, and it requires a commitment or a potential change of airspace. The airspace around Watsonville at this particular time, nor the volume of traffic, would support the cost of bringing a control tower to the field.
We do know that on Saturday, both planes will be taken to Pleasant Grove for further investigation. Reporting in Watsonville, Scott Rates, KION News Channel 46.
On June 6th, 2020, there was a knock on my door. And that was the beginning of this nightmare that I can't wake up from.
Stephen Carrillo, a former Air Force sergeant turned extremist and self-proclaimed Boogaloo Boy, sat in court before dozens of people whose lives he forever changed 2 years ago. The mother of Sergeant Gutzweiler's children gathering her composure to read a witness statement.
There is no justice for what you have done. There will never be justice. They could kill you 1,000,000 times over and it would never be enough.
Favi Del Rio gave birth to Sergeant Gutzweiler's daughter 3 weeks after his murder. Their son only 2 years old at the time.
There can never be justice for a little boy who no longer asks for his daddy to come home from work or screams for him in the middle of the night because he knows his daddy will never come. There can never be justice for a sweet, innocent little baby born into the world, taking her first breath after her daddy took his last.
Carrillo's sentencing giving light to the horror that unfolded that day. And for the first time, we're learning who the Good Samaritan was, a man who tackled and detained Carrillo while he tried to escape from law enforcement.
I was very afraid that day. When I tackled the defendant, I didn't want to die, but I was willing to risk my life in order to protect my loved ones and those around me. The deputies who responded to the call that day were also putting their lives on the line to protect our community.
Carrillo hardly turning to face the victims, remaining unbothered and unaffected by their words. The judge sending him to be locked up for the rest of his life without the possibility of parole. Still, the victims having lost so much more.
I can't believe that I will never be able to hug Damon again.
As the days pass by, this dead fin whale is attracting locals and tourists. Kids and adults alike gathering to see the animal up close, and for them,
it was cool seeing a whale on the beach. It was pretty exciting.
Now, since the whale has been on shore these past couple of days, California State Parks Division officers put up these signs advising beachgoers of possible increased shark activity in the water near the whale. This isn't drawing too much concern from locals, though.
I think the water is so shallow that a shark is not going to try that unless we have an extreme high tide. And everyone knows there are sharks around here anyway, as evidenced by the recent attack at Lover's Point.
I'm not too worried about it. We don't have, the water's cold. The air is kind of cold, although today, since I've been walking a long distance, it feels warm. But there aren't that many people in the water, so I don't think it's going to pose quite as big a deal.
For those who like going in the water, they'll be talking with researchers.
I think for a lot of us who do swim in the water, we're just going to wait till we talk to those folks, and they're like, yeah, the sharks are, like, there's less sharks, and some people just aren't bothered at all.
It's a Type 1 helicopter, so it's a game changer for us. It's a twin engine. It holds 1,000 gallons of water. It comes with a couple more crew members. But to have that type of water, if you get a close water source to wherever the fire is burning, and they can do quick trips, it just puts out that much more fire.
CAL FIRE Battalion Chief Tim Stepanovich is talking about this new addition to their air attack fleet. This Sikorsky S-70I. It lives at the Hollister Air Attack Base. In 2018, CAL FIRE was granted approval from the governor's office to purchase up to 12 of these Firehawk helicopters. With a gross weight of 22,000 pounds, a cruise speed of 160 miles per hour, a turbo twin engine, a 1,000-gallon water tank, and night vision, this chopper gives crews the upper hand fighting fires.
He can split his load so he can support the boots on the ground that are using chainsaws and hand tools, and they're cutting line, and he can start right in front of them and cool down, and then he can come back and give them a second drop.
From May 1st until November, CAL FIRE is put onto what's called high dispatch.
But he calls 911 for vegetation fire. You're going to get a battalion chief, 5 engines, 2 hand crews, 2 water tenders, 2 dozers, an air attack, 2 tankers, and a copter.
And with fires becoming more prevalent as we move into the summer, does CAL FIRE have a priority when flying out of this air attack base?
We do and we don't. This is an uncontrolled airport, so there's no tower. We make blind calls on a Unicom frequency. So if we come up on the frequency and say, hey, we're coming out for a fire dispatch, General Aviation can say, I'm going to extend my downwind so you guys can get up and out. But the fuels are drier earlier. We're seeing fire activity that we see in July and August, and we're seeing it in May and June.
Reporting in Hollister, Scott Rates, KION News Channel 546.